Today, I am excited to welcome Alex Messier. She is the proud pet parent of two rescued pups named Ferris and Octavia. Alex, tell us about your rescues.
Hello. My babies, of course. So Ferris was rescued at 4 months old, from Tennessee, and he was actually abandoned in Alabama. And somebody reached out because him and his sister were actually on a farm together, and he is adorable. He has like two brown spots on him, and his sister was all black. They're both the same age, and so they got rescued because phone calls went around and he got into the rescue in Memphis, Tennessee. So
Mhm.
we found him online and we were like, I love him. And I wanted a boy, my husband wanted a girl. And so we settled on a boy, and we flew down to Nashville, rented a car and drove because they were going to actually bring him up here. And they were like, oh, you just bring him up. And I was like, no, 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 we want to go down and meet him and bring him with us. Because my dad lived in Maryland at the time too. So it worked out where we could stop on the way home. So we
Mhm.
flew down to Nashville, drove to Memphis, picked him up, loved him, of course, grabbed him. Poor boy was sick the whole time. And I actually became ill on the way home too. So my husband was dealing with two sickies.
Oh boy.
And we made it back to my dad's house, which was about, I think it was like 10 hours from Memphis to my dad's house, stayed there for the night, and then drove the rest of the way home, which I did that drive many times. So it was like about 7 hours. Made
Mhm.
it home, and he was a wreck. He was a good boy. He was trained and everything, but he has super bad anxiety because he was with his sister all the time. So he was used to having a sibling. And luckily, we actually adopted another pup about a week later called Riley from another puppy, from another friend who had puppies.
Mhm.
And so that settled his whole anxiety. So they've been inseparable ever since. So they're both about the same age, and he's the best puppy ever. And Octavia, we got 3 years ago, I believe, from Fairhaven Animal Shelter. She was a senior and she got adopted and then got returned because she played rough with kids, is what they said.
Mm.
She's a 120, 30 pound Rottweiler.
Wow.
She is a bully. Like, she literally is a bull in a china shop. She's the gentlest of gentle dogs, but she doesn't know how big she is. So guaranteed she just
Mhm.
knocked the kid over. And so we went to go visit her and we loved her. So the Terry from Fairhaven Animal Shelter was like, hey, I know you have other dogs. You want to just bring them here? And of course, it was a downpouring, nasty day. Took the dogs there. They all got along. He was like, they're playing around. And my baby Riley is kind of the alpha, even though she's the smallest.
Mhm.
So Octavia and her got in a little tussle, but he was like, I'm not worried. They're fine. They're not hurting each
Mhm.
other. We're totally
Mhm.
fine. And so we took Octavia home that day, and we actually paid for her in some kitty litter because he wouldn't even accept payment for her because he just wanted her to go to a good home. And so
Yeah.
we've had her ever since, and she's a good part of the pack. She's just a big lob of fluff to trip over all the time. So those are pretty much my babies.
Now with Ferris, what do you know what breed of dog he is, or is he kind of a
So we did a
mutt?
DNA test on him because on the listing he was listed as Rottweiler and Greater Swiss Mountain Dog. He's not either of those things. He is
Interesting.
he's 10%, he's 21 breeds. He's 10% lab, and it shows in his personality because I used to have a lab, and oh my God. And he is 9% Chow Chow and
Oh.
11% golden retriever, I believe. And then a variety of other things. There's some pit bull in there and stuff because he has a very big chest and short little paws and bow legs. He's an oddly shaped dog. His head looks like a lab though. So
Mhm.
yes, but his fur is interesting. Everyone that meets him says, wow, his fur is so soft. It's very thin and it's almost like chow chow fur, which makes sense. It's just thinner, it's just shorter than chow chow fur. So yeah,
Mhm.
and sometimes in his personality, you can see the Chow Chow too. So I can see
Mhm.
all the breeds that he is. And we did a DNA test a few years ago because we were really curious what he was, and also just for health problems and stuff like that.
Yeah. Those are
Hmm.
becoming, the DNA tests are becoming more and more and more popular. I have two dogs, rescue dogs myself, and I have not yet tested them. Um, And I think that they've gotten more, dare I say, accurate and just better
Yes,
as
yeah.
time has gone on.
Yeah, we did ours a few years ago, and actually, I still get notifications that they like are adding things to it because they're rerunning it because they got more information. So, yeah, it's there. I think I did the Embark DNA test. I got it on Chewy when it was on sale.
Okay.
And yeah, it's really interesting and it was super easy. You just have to rub their gums and then send it in and just wait for the results.
How
But
long
I
does that
liked it.
take? Is it a long period of time?
I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
So it came in the mail, we did it, we sent it back, and it was about 2 to 3 weeks before I got results. So it wasn't super long, but it wasn't like short amount of time.
Hmm. And then how do you find that, I'm always curious about this because you mentioned specifically that you did it to, to try to identify potential health issues. Did you bring that to your veterinarian and say, hey, this is the DNA test. Can you, help us understand? Or is it just more of a, like heads up you could run into and you might want to look out for X, Y, or Z?
Pretty much I wanted to know, I didn't bring I think when we first got it done, I just told the vet what breeds he actually was, because under the vet records he was all messed up. And mostly I wanted to know the one I didn't have as much DNA testing for health issues that other ones because there's different levels of like testing, and I only got the one for like breed specific. And the reason I did it was mostly because breeds specifically, like bully breeds and, bigger breeds with hip problems and stuff like that. I wanted to know if there was going to be like more hip problems because of his bow-leggedness or chest problem. He has a big chest, so I didn't want his organs and everything. So mostly we just wanted to update it in the system for them to know, like, hey, he is this dog, and when he gets older, we might be dealing with something,
Hmm.
because we know what the other dogs are, and I just wanted to know for mostly for myself and just a little bit more, but we didn't do the full like workup of the health testing. I wish I did, but it was like double the amount of price, and I was like,
Right.
I'll just do the DNA. And at that time it wasn't that popular to do that one yet, so because it was like 3 or 4 years ago, so
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. No, that's helpful. I think, for anybody that, will watch this episode and is curious about the DNA test, I think, any little nugget we can get along the way is
Yeah.
helpful perhaps to someone else.
Hmm.
Um, I know you said your dog is part bully breed, and presumably you take your dog out, for walks or, to go get pup cups or, the fun things that you do with your dog.
Yeah.
Um, do you find that people tend to, shy away from your dog? What do you notice from other
So
people?
I don't walk all three of them together anymore because they're three dogs is too much for me. But when I used to take Riley and Ferris, my little girl that not really, she's not from a rescue, and Ferris on walks, more people were actually afraid of her because she's more vocal. She is Rottweiler, Border Collie, Boxer Lab, and she's small, brown, and looks like she kind of looks like all of them put together, literally
Hmm.
exactly the same. She doesn't have any markings of like a Rottweiler. She doesn't have any markings of anything, but she's loud, and she's loud like a Rottweiler. She growls
Hmm.
and she barks and she snaps and she yum, 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 especially when she sees other dogs. So people are actually afraid of her, and she's only 65, 70 pounds. And then Ferris is quiet. He is what we say is an old soul. He's a south boy, and he's an old soul. He's
Hmm.
quiet. He's different with strangers. He stays behind me with strangers around. He just doesn't care about dogs and everything. So everyone loves him. I've
Hmm.
never met one person that has been afraid of him. They go, "Oh my God, he's so sweet. He's so cute. He's so," because he's
Hmm.
calm, and Riley's not. So I have actually more issues with the Rottweiler than anything else.
Interesting. And because unfortunately, bully breeds have such a dark stereotype. So I'm always
Yes, they
curious
do.
about what dog owners experience when they take them
Yes.
out. But before it was bully breeds, it was Rottweilers. And then before
People are
that, it
still
was
afraid of
something else.
Rottweilers.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
It's always
unfortunate.
something. My One of my best friends has a pit bull. She has a blue nose pit bull, and she's doing training with him, and he's doing so well. She's the training in Westport actually with
Hmm.
Eric,
Yeah.
and because he progressively was getting worse and worse and worse, and everyone's afraid. When she goes out, she's like, oh, everyone's afraid of him, but he's actually a sweetheart. He's big goofball. And when she got him, I knew him since he was a puppy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not afraid of this dog, but like a lot of people are. And then when I got Octavia, when I did take her for outside and stuff like that, again, she's old, so she doesn't move very fast and she's kind of really chill. People still are like, oh, it's a Rottweiler, which is, I think, another
Mhm.
reason why they, besides the fact that she was elderly, I think the reason she wasn't getting adopted also is because she was a Rottweiler, and
Mhm.
I believe she's a purebred Rottweiler too. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and
Yeah.
full tail, everything. She's got a tiny little head though. So, but big body, big tail, tiny little head.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what, because, you kind of adopted you didn't adopt all these dogs at the same time. They kind of, staggered their way into
Yeah.
your life. I'm always curious about, when folks rescue dogs, whether they get them from other families that had, too many puppies, like, one of your dogs, or you go straight to a rescue and adopt them. What challenges did you experience, like following adoption, that you kind of had to work through?
So with Riley, there was no issues because it was from a friend, so we just kind of were like, we knew them. With Octavia, Terry knew us because we live in town, and so he knew what our house looked like. He knew we had a house. He knew we had a fenced-in yard and everything like that. So Octavia, we had no issues at all either. I filled out just for schematics, I filled out an application,
Mhm.
and that was it. With Ferris, because it was a real deal rescue and everything that didn't know us, we were complete strangers from a different state. We filled out the application. We did a quick interview with them, and they were like, "Oh, do you have a fenced-in yard?" And at the time, we didn't, but they were like, "Oh, did you have previous pets?" They contacted our vet from our previous pet and everything, which we still use the same vet for all of our dogs. And so they just kind of did the background of us, and they wanted a few pictures of the house and the yard and everything, just to make sure that we were able to have a dog and
Mhm.
be able. And I was like, well, we don't have a fence in yard yet. We're going to build a fence, but we have this long lead outside, and I could take him for walks. So we'd leash walked him and stuff like that. But they didn't give us really any issues. It was just the two of us. They're like, "Oh, how much do you work?" And at the time, my husband was in and out of the house all day long because he works for himself. So he can
Mhm.
come home whenever. And,
Mhm.
I was home every weekend and everything like that. So they ask a lot of questions, but most rescues care more. They're like, it's okay for the dog to be alone for 8 hours in a house versus being in a shelter for 24
Mhm.
hours.
Mhm.
So they're very lenient with it. They mostly care, like, are you in an apartment? Can you walk the dog, kind of thing. And we didn't have any issues. We've never had any issues. And then our previous dog was from Craigslist. So, that was kind of, got the dog because we were saving her. And
Right,
before
right.
that, we got, yeah, my family dog was a lab from a breeder. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, we didn't have any issues with adopting, which I'm glad. My friend is also looking at adopting, and she lives in an apartment, but she's not having any issues with getting in touch with people for dogs and anything. They mostly care, like, do you care about a dog, and do you have
Yeah.
dogs, and do you care? So
Mhm.
and you can get that just from talking to somebody. Like, do you care?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know you said your dog Ferris had experienced a bit of anxiety because he was with his sibling for quite a while, or at least the first few months of his life. How did you work through that? Did you enlist the help of a dog trainer? Were you home a little bit more? How did you kind of work through that?
So it actually worked out really well. When we got him, I was in between jobs, so I had 2 weeks off. So I was switching from one job to another, and so I stopped working for a little bit because I was actually really sick. And so my old boss was like, "Hey, you don't need to come into work. You're quitting anyways. It's fine." And so I got to be home with him for the first, because I think it was like a week and a half before we got Riley that we had him by himself. So I was
Mhm.
mostly home, and so we were thinking about doing like contacting a dog trainer and stuff. But we were like, you know what? Let's give him a few weeks because he's a rescue. He's a puppy still. Let's get him at least acclimated to, because it takes like 3 months for a dog to get comfortable in a house. And so we gave him some time, and then we got Riley. And immediately, the second that puppy walked through that door, he turned into a different dog. He
Mhm.
just was like, "Nope, this is my buddy." And we could leave him because we crate trained all of our dogs. They stay in crates when we're gone and everything like that.
Mhm.
And so we could not put him in a crate. He was breaking out of the crates. He was breaking out of
Oh,
he was
wow.
breaking down. He was he could jump. So he was jumping over like gates that we put up, everything. And we could not leave him. We just couldn't leave him. And when we got her, He was fine. Totally fine. Just didn't care. He was like, "Oh, you want me to go in my crate? Okay." Put her in her crate, him in his crate. As long as he knew she was in the house, totally fine. To this day, if we take her out of the house, he gets a little worried, but luckily they kind of go to their vet appointments together and they kind of do everything together. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had him for 6.5 years and he's so ever since then we've been totally fine. We never had to do anything, never really medicated him for anything, normal, just normal stuff. The vet knows about it, but
Mhm.
they're like, if it's a problem, we can talk more about different things, but as long they're like, how many times are you really going to separate them? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And now we have Octavia too. So he's totally fine. But it was tough to work through for the first like week or two. I mean, I
Mhm.
know people that deal with it for months and years but I lucked out. I lucked out having another puppy come in his life.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think, Ferris was lucky to have, both you and your husband as pet parents because, sadly and unfortunately, people, I think, shortly after adoption don't give the dogs enough time to decompress. You're right. Like there is
yes.
a period of time they need to settle in. But
Hmm.
then also as challenges arise, like for example, separation anxiety or they have trouble housebreaking them. There's all kinds of things that can come up after adoption.
Hmm.
And then unfortunately people they just throw in the towel and say this isn't really what I signed up for, and these dogs wind up right back where they came
Yep.
from. So I think it's great. I always enjoy, not that I wish challenges upon people, but it's nice to see that there are people out there that are like, listen, we committed to this dog, we're gonna just figure it out, work through it.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Just figure it out. I mean, Cyrus literally took 2 years to fully come out of his shell. Like we had him, he was he's always been a great dog, but one day it just clicked where he was just a complete goofball and his personality
mm,
came out. And I was like, who are you? But it was literally 2 years later and he came out of his shell, because he used to never flip on his back and he used to
mhm,
never do anything like that. Now I catch him flipping on his back, being a weirdo goofball, rearranging all the pillows on the couch. And I'm just like, he's comfortable now. And,
yeah.
he's completely comfortable and he's never moved homes. He's always been in this one house and everything. So you think he just knows like, this is my home. These are my people. I'm not leaving anywhere. He
Mhm.
never leaves my side. I never had to even off leash train him. He doesn't leave my side. He doesn't leave either. As long as he's in visible distance of us, he won't run off. He won't go anywhere. He's right with us because we have friends that have a lot of land. So we took him there when he was younger. Wouldn't leave our side. Doesn't care. So he just knows these people rescued me and this is my home.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. What are if you had a new neighbor that moved in next door to where you lived and they said, hey Alex, I'm new to this town. Who should I be sure to put on my pet services list? Who would you recommend for pet services?
Hmm.
Could be anything.
So I do have one service. It's a little funny. I actually have a poop scoop squad come and pick up
Oh.
poop in my yard because once we got Octavia, I was like, there's so much. There is so much. She puts out a lot of poop. So they're actually right out of Acushnet, I believe. And I've been recommending them to anyone who has dogs, because they come up once a week. You pay them, you send them a picture of the yard, and they figure out like how much it's going to cost, and they come pick up all the poop in the yard for me, it's every Thursday. So on the weekends, like when we have people over, I don't really have to worry about like anyone stepping in a lot of poop or anything like that. So that's the only service I really use
Hmm.
right now. And then I also use Chewy a lot too, like an online service.
Hmm.
But other than that, I don't have any other services that I really use. Yeah.
No, I think that's helpful. It's interesting because they've been doing quite a bit of advertising.
Yeah.
And I thought, gosh, I wonder. I didn't know honestly if it was a relatively new company, or if they've been around for a bit and they've just started advertising. But it's funny that you mentioned that, and it seems like it's working out really well for you.
It
So.
is. It's absolutely wonderful. So it's funny because the family that actually owns Poop Soup Squad, I was friends with one of the daughters when we were in like middle school. I
Mhm.
recognized that at first. I saw the picture and I go, she looks familiar. And then all the ads came out. So I've been having them come for about, I think like 6 or 8 months now. I believe they're a relatively new company within the last like year or two, but they just started advertising a lot more, I
Mhm.
think. But they're awesome. They're awesome. They have a truck. They come in, they don't disturb you. They leave little cookies every time on the door for the pups. So they ask how many pets you have and what their names are, and then they leave the amount of treats for each dog on the door every time. And they just don't. I've seen them a few times, but mostly they come when I'm not home. They don't disturb anyone. They don't disturb anything. They just do their job and they dispose of all the poop. So I love them. I love them.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of them until I don't have dogs.
And they're
There's
the
snow.
poop scoop squad. Is that what it is?
Yes, poop scoop squad. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to make sure that we get a shout out to them as well.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And what do you, I mean, it sounds like you've had dogs for quite a while
Yeah.
in your life. If you were going to give one bit of advice to someone that was looking to adopt a dog, what would that be?
Give them time. Don't give up. It's gonna be hard. Don't give up because it's gonna be worth it.
Mhm.
That's pretty much that's the only thing with people that I and all of our friends are really great. So anyone that's adopted a dog, I wasn't worried about them giving up or anything, but that's really is give the dog time. Like let it figure itself out in your home because some people just adopt a dog and they want it to adapt to their life. Adapt to the dog a little bit, you know,
Mhm.
give it just figure out its personality, figure out what it likes. Like, does it like to go on walks? Maybe it doesn't. My dogs don't really like walking. Ferris will do whatever I want. Riley will walk for 5 minutes and stop and be like, I'm done. She wants to run around in the yard. So that's why we built the fence so we could have a yard for the dogs. So figure out what they like. It's sometimes something really simple is sometimes they just like toys and they just want to play with
Mhm.
toys. And so just give them time and figure them out because they're also their life got uprooted and got all messed up. So, that's yeah.
That's such, I would say that's fantastic advice. Um, because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people just, they give up after a week or two and the dog hasn't even had a hot minute to
Yeah.
understand that they're not moving in a week again, because a lot of
Yeah.
these foster rescues, that are just foster only, these dogs are literally for the first few months moved. They're moved quite a bit, and
Hmm.
it's not really the fault of anyone, if you will. It's just kind of how these dogs move
Hmm.
through these rescues. So they don't know. And to your point, if they're suffering from something, if they're also experiencing some level of anxiety, I think that probably, that adds a little bit more time to the
Yeah.
settling in process because they're
Yep.
just naturally anxious. So no, thank you for that. Thank you for that so much. Well, listen, this has been a great morning, spending some time learning about, oh, I see a dog.
Yeah, Ferris is right here. He came upstairs.
Hi, Ferris.
Say hi. Say hello.
What a face.
Yeah, he's
Oh
a
my
goofball. I love
goodness.
him. I love him. He's my baby. The toys are all upstairs because Octavia was having a little bit of issues with the toys and she was ripping them all up and she was going through a spat. So I moved all the toys upstairs. So only when we're upstairs that can they play with them. So the door was open and he was like, I think I can go get a toy. So that's why he's up here. They're so smart.
Yeah, that dogs are not dumb. That is for
No,
sure. They are not
no, they're
dumb.
not. No, not at
One of the
all.
reasons we love them so much.
Yes,
So,
yes.
well, thank you so much. It has been wonderful spending this time learning about your rescue journey and meeting your dog.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm
My
I'm so glad to talk about my dogs. So, and
Yes, yes,
been
yes.
like
And I'm so
rescues.
glad to learn about your experience. And
Yeah.
I learned a thing or two about those DNA tests. So this has been great.
Yes. Yeah, they've definitely been improving over time. So if you get one now, like you can do so much with it, and they constantly reach out. Like I'm still getting emails, so they constantly reach out and re-up and say, "Hey, something changed, just so you know. Like we're gonna add more DNA to this." And yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. Enjoy the rest
Thank
of your
you.
day,
You
and
too.
we'll be in touch soon.